For this last lesson in this chapter on classes, we're going to create a set of getter and setter methods. These are called getter and setter methods because they're used to get data out of the class object and to set the data members to a particular value. So let's get started. We'll add these methods under our toString method. So we'll start out with the getters. They will always be string functions. In other words, because our data members are strings, then these will return strings. So we'll call the first one getFirst, and all it does is return the first name. You can see that the other ones are going to be similar to that. So we'll do public string getMiddle, return middle right here, and then getLast. These methods will return the value specified in the method name. So we have getFirst for the first name, getMiddle for the middle name, and getLast for the last name. Now we're ready to do the setter methods. Setter methods will be used to set each data member to a particular value. That way, if a name object has a change, for example, someone specified by a name object gets married and their last name changes, we can do a setLast to change the last name. Set methods are void methods, and what I mean by that is a void method does not return data. It is simply used to perform an operation, in this case to assign a value to a data member. So its return type is void, which means no return type. So we'll write setFirst for the name of the method. The parameter will be a first name, that's a string, so we'll use string fname, and all we do is do a simple assignment. In this chapter, I'm not going to get into data validation. I'll do that in more detail when we get to the chapter where we study classes in more depth. Right now, I just want to give you an overview of how classes work. So we're going to avoid worrying about data validation. So after setFirst, we need to set middle. Middle equals mname. And then our last one, public void setLast, string lname, last equals lname, like so. To take us down to the end of the definition. Let's go back over these real quickly. The getters return data members from the class object. So getFirst returns the first name, getMiddle returns the middle name, and getLast returns the last name. Setters set data member values. So setFirst sets the first name to the parameter passed to it. setMiddle sets the middle name to the parameter passed to it. And setLast sets the last name to the parameter passed to it. Let's save this class. Open a DOS prompt. Compile it, just to make sure it's working correctly. No errors, so everything's working good. So now let's call up our test program. I believe I called it nameTest.java, like so. And let's play around with this a little bit. We'll use the initial values that we set, and I'm going to comment out this other code. And let's try a few things here. Let's do a let's use a get first. So let's say my name first name, and then we'll call my name getFirst, like so. And then let's do a set. Let's do a your name set last Brown. I won't test them all. And then we'll do a toString on systemout print line. I could have copied that from above, but at this point I might as well type it. I'm almost finished. So in this example, we're calling the getFirst method to get the first name, return it from the object my name. And then we changed your name's last data member to Brown, and then we're going to return the whole name right here. Let's give it a shot. Save it. Open up our DOS prompt. Compile. Compiles quickly. Then run it in the VM by typing Java nameTest. So we return the first name for my name, which is Michael, and then we set your name's last name to Brown from Williams, and it returns Raymond Brown. Now let me go back and add one more setter method that I left out earlier. We'll just minimize that for right now. Here's my class definition again. I want to do a set name so that we can set a complete name. So we'll add it to the end of our definition. We're going to write public void set name, and then we're going to have string f, string m, and string l. First equals f, middle equals m, last equals l. Save the file. Bring our DOS prompt back up. use the up arrow key to find where we compiled the name file right there, javac name.java. Compile it again. Everything looks good. Go back to our name test program, and where I have name subname, I don't have a name for that yet since I called it with the default constructor. We can use the setName method right here. So we can write setName, and we'll just use John Quincy Adams. Then we'll pull it out. In this case, I'm going to copy, not this one, copy this one and change what we want to change here. Control C, Control V, change that to some name, change it right here. All right, so to review what I've just done, I've created a setName method, and then I call it with some name to set the name to John Quincy Adams. Remember that in the previous lesson, I used the default constructor on that, so the current data member values were empty string. And then we call toString on some name so that we can see that it set the name correctly. So we'll save that file, minimize here and here. Takes us back to our DOS prompt. Compile name test. Oops, 2 errors. This was a good time to look at that. So it says it cannot find the symbol. All right, well, I made a very simple mistake. Now we can find out what we did wrong. What we did wrong was we commented out our declaration of name some name. So let's add that in after our last comment right here, like so. Click File, Save. And that does account for both errors. We have 2 errors here, and both of them are because some name was not referenced. Cannot find symbol some name. As I go through the lessons, I want to mention this real quick. When I make little mistakes like this, rather than cover them up and edit and take them out, I'm just going to keep them in because these are the kind of mistakes you're going to be making as a beginning programmer. We all make them, and there's no shame in admitting it. And this way you can see how to fix these errors, or at least see how I fix them. And then when they come up in your own programs, this will help you be able to figure out what your mistakes are. So let's compile again. Still have, oops, I didn't change it every place. Let's see where it says it in setName in line 16. All right, let's go back to our code. Go back and check our main program. Oh, there's the mistake. Make that a capital. So you see how important little details like this are. Again, that's why I'm not editing this out. I want you to see where the mistakes are and the kinds you're going to make. Let's save that. Now we're going to have to recompile the name class. So we'll do this right. There it is right there. Now, recompile name test. One more mistake. It said some name may not have been initialized. Let's go back to our code and look. Default constructor, like so. Save the file. Compile again. Oh, all right. Some languages don't require you to put parentheses around the default constructor call like that. Let's try it one more time. There we go. Compile and run. There we have it. So let me talk one more time about this last error. The last error was the fact that I declared some name without calling the constructor correctly. I was actually doing it the way you do it in C++. To do it in Java, even though you're not using any data, you still have to call the class name or the constructor name with empty parentheses for a default constructor. So that was where the second error was. The first error was that some name had been declared in the file where the name is defined with the lowercase n, but I meant for it to be uppercase. That's just a typo. And actually these are all just typos. So to summarize, let's go back to the definition because that's where the important information is. We need what are called accessor methods to get at the data in our class, both to set it and to get it. So that's why we have getter and setter methods. And generally speaking, we will do that for all classes that we create if we want the user to have access to all the data. If we don't want them to have access to the data, we can leave a getter or a setter out if we need to. That's always up to the designer of the class and how they feel the interface of their class should work. And the interface just meaning what methods are available to the user to access the class objects. That ends our introduction to classes, and we're going to close up this chapter with an exercise, and that'll come up in the next video.